Last week, after our episode on 80% versus 20%, I received a message not from a site engineer, not from planning. It was from someone in HR. And that question applies to planning, procurement, finance, site, everyone. He wrote, "Sir, this makes sense for engineers, but I am in talent acquisition. How does this apply to me?" And the more I thought about that, the more I realized this question applies to every function in EPC. And that question is the real episode today. Because the 80-20 separation is not about engineers, it is about EPC professionals. In EPC, we sit in departments like planning, QA, commercial, HR, procurement, finance, stores, PMC, PMO. And slowly, we start believing my job is my department. The day you start saying, I'm only from HR or I'm only from planning, your growth quietly stops. No announcement, no warning, just silence. Let's start with HR talent acquisition. Version 1. He sources CVs, schedule interview, release offer, close the position. Efficient, responsive, task is complete. But version 2 thinks differently. He asks, why is this project constantly hiring replacements? Why does site attrition spike after 6 months? Why are planners resigning during billing pressure? What is the resource curve versus actual manpower trend? Understand hiring is not recruitment, it is margin protection. If HR does not understand planning instability, how will he recruit right profiles? If he does not understand contract pressure, how will he anticipate stress cycles? Without system understanding, HR becomes replaceable. With system understanding, HR becomes strategic. And this logic applies everywhere, every function. Let's understand planning. Type 1 planner updates Primavera, generates reports, attends review. Type 2 planner understands contract milestone triggers, knows which delay affects cash flow, anticipates procurement collision. One updates schedule, one protects revenue. I once saw a planner who could create the cleanest Primavera schedule, but when the client invoked LD, he looked confused. He did not know whether it was 0.5% per week or per milestone. They did not know what it meant commercially. That day, I realized software skill is not project intelligence. Let's understand procurement. Type 1. Float RFQ, negotiate rate, issue purchase order. Type 2 understands site consumption pattern, knows design instability risk, aligns procurement with billing cycle. One buys material, one manages risk. Now we will see finance and accounts. Type 1 books entries, prepares statement, whereas type 2 monitors project cash survival, understands retention money pressures, flags cost leakages early. One records history, one protects future. Similarly, in case of stores, the type 1 issues material, maintain ledger, whereas type 2 understands working capital lock, tracks slow moving inventory, connects wastage to margin. The site engineer, type 1 executes drawing, type 2 understands variation impact, knows how change order shape final profitability. And the dangerous part, From inside the department, both look equally busy. Do you see the pattern? Same role, same designation, different depth. And that difference creates the 20%. The dangerous part, the ceiling is rarely visible. That's why it is dangerous. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. EPC is a pyramid. At bottom, hundreds. At top, few. Vacancies shrink as you climb. So what decides who climbs? Years? Hard work? Loyalty? No. It is replacement difficulty. When you understand only your task, someone else can learn it in few months. When you understand interdependencies, replacing you becomes expensive. That is the real promotion criteria. And here is where most careers silently slow down. If you are 3 to 8 years into EPC, this is the most dangerous stage. Paper, EPC looks structured, process charts, organograms, responsibility matrices. But reality, firefighting, drawing changes, client mood swings, cash flow stress, resource gaps, and tender miscalculation. And if you are worked in EPC, you know SOP and reality rarely match. That is why we explore those contrasts separately, and which is why we created the EPC versus reality series. Because what we can see in EPC is rarely what happens on site. And if industry itself is dynamic, unpredictable, pressure driven, then growth of you cannot be accidental, it must be systematic. EPC is not an execution industry, it is a decision industry portrayed as execution. Now let's add another layer. Routine clarity is becoming software driven. Billing documentation, vendor comparisons, quantity takeoff, automation will reduce manual dependency. Software is replacing manual tracking. ERP is reducing coordination dependencies. Routine work will shrink. Only two things will remain valuable: decision clarity, system understanding. The future 20% will not be busiest people, they will be clearest thinkers. Now the question becomes, how does one move from task thinker to system thinker? It is not a motivational shift, it is an exposure shift. You must understand tender logic, understand contract risk, understand project cash flow, understand interdepartmental flow. And this is exactly why on this channel we don't just talk execution. If you want to go deeper into how project lifecycle and decision system actually work, we have already broken those structures in process excellence discussion. We have entire process excellence series and it is ongoing of course. System thinking cannot be built in one video. It needs structured exposure, that is the sadhana. EPC sadhana is not about shortcuts. It is about daily clarity, layer by layer understanding. Individual growth aligned with organizational excellence. We are not chasing titles, we are building capability that makes titles inevitable. And if you continue watching only task videos, you will remain task bound. If you expose yourself to system level thinking, you begin shifting lanes. That shift is slow, but once it starts, it accelerates. In the last episode, we saw the 80-20 separation. Today, we saw that separation exists in every function. In the coming Inside EPC episode, we will break down practical transitions from planner to project thinker, HR to strategic HR, engineer to margin protector, finance to business controller. If you are serious about not staying in the 80%, stay on this journey because growth in EPC is not accidental. It is designed, and this channel is where we design it. In the next Inside EPC episode, we will break down one function completely and decode how to redesign your thinking from inside it.